Welcome to the Draft Professor. I am joined with my favorite Bills podcasters, Owen, Randall. It is good to see you guys on a Tuesday night. The big O Jerry Ostrowski should be joining us shortly. But before we dive into today's subject, Randall, anything catch your eye at the Brandon Beane or Joe Brady press conferences or at the combine today?
Yeah, they played everything pretty close to their vest, which is fine. The Taron Johnson information is intriguing that they're saying that it's not off the table that he might get moved to safety. So that's, to me, it's not that he's going to move safety. It's more or less to me as that Taron Johnson is probably not safe in that nickel position. And now they agree with us that we need to fill that role as well because Taron Johnson wasn't doing well. So the turmoil of Taron Johnson was interesting. And no, I think that's really it. Other than that, I think they stayed pretty close to their vest. What about you, Owen?
I didn't hear much what Brady said. I know I listened to what Bean said, and I mean it was like Randall said, they didn't really give us much to work with. I do think that it's interesting they're focusing heavily on the defense for their early combine interviews. I mean, I think that's probably the right move. If you're going to be the more change is going to be occurring on the defensive side, so they're going to be looking to add some guys there to both make the transition easier and up the talent level over there. Whereas they already have a world best player at quarterback and offense and consistency there. So if you're going to look to make some big swings, defenses, I'm slowly coming around to defense being the focal point of this draft class. So that's what caught my eye specifically.
Yeah, and I didn't catch the Brady presser, and I don't know that I saw all of Beane. So, like the Taron Johnson part, I guess I didn't catch. So I have to go back and make sure I was watching the actual interview feed and not somebody's cut up.
Yeah,
of it.
I found it somebody at the podium. Somebody at the podium asked Brandon Beane, which, man, you really wasted the question. He said, now that you've had a month to think about it, why do you think Sean McDermott was fired and you were promoted?
I saw that.
And he was just like, yeah, we're moving on from that, so I'm not going to answer that question. I felt bad for that reporter. That was a bad question to ask. Like, you really thought you were going to, there's no way you're going to get an answer out of that.
Well, don't feel bad for him. He asked that question.
Well, I'm more surprised that a reporter wouldn't have a better question to answer. Like, have you not researched the roster or seen what the offseason needs are? Now, what's interesting, and I think I saw this on Joe Marino's show, where they were going through the snap counts. It was either Jeremy White or Joe Marino, where they were going through, like, Buffalo has like the second lowest returning snap counts on defense. But this isn't the only year that was true. Like about 3 or 4 years ago, I believe we had something similar where a bunch of players like Tremaine Edmonds, I think it was the year that Edmonds left. Yeah. We had several other players that we were moving on from, and we were losing a lot of snap counts. But I don't know, if you're returning 53%, I actually think that that's enough, even though that's like 31st in the league, because whoever you add in and the players, between whoever you add in and then the players that you have waiting in the wings, I don't know that 53% of returning defensive snaps really worries me. Jerry,
I don't think it does.
How are you?
Good. What's going on? Are you talking about the tweet that was out there about how much we've lost in defensive players or the amount of snaps that coming back?
I don't remember if that came up on Bill's Squad or one of Joe Marino's podcasts, but I thought it was an interesting stat, but I'm not worried about it.
Well, if there was ever a time for that to happen, it would be now, right? With a new staff, a new D coordinator, you don't have to worry about a bunch of guys coming back that you don't want. So, yeah, I think that this is probably the perfect time for that to all go down.
So, yeah, and that's just from 2020. That's just 2025 too. So like Ed Oliver was injured, so he'll be back in the snap counts. You were using like Daquan Jones. There's just a lot. Yeah, I don't read. I'm not going to read too much into that.
Right.
Okay. So Jerry, we were talking right before the podcast. So we're going to do some mock drafts and we're going to talk through the players. The vision today is that we want the mock drafts to be heavily focused on offensive line and edge early until the players that we have graded that high are no longer available. And I know, Jerry, you and I texted about that a little bit today as well. So just out of curiosity, Jerry, which offensive lineman do you think are reasonable targets for Buffalo in round one?
In round one, I mean, I've seen some mocks where Vega has fallen that far. I have. If that happens, I think you just stop the presses and you will sprint to the table with his name on the card. You probably have that card already made sitting there so that if he gets to 26, you just sprint there. But, obviously probably won't happen. Some other guys we've graded. We talked about Pregnon. We've talked about, a Cage Casey that probably moves inside, a Kalen Rutledge from Georgia Tech. I don't know. I think that if there's not a home run like that, I don't know if Basantis is actually a guy that you'd pick it at 26. I mean, he's got a very, I know that that's another one that I love, but I think he's got some question marks to him with, there's been some stuff out there that he's not going to measure really long in the arms. He's going to be short armed and some things like that. So with that being said, do you roll the dice and maybe go for somebody else in round 3? I think is probably when you're talking about if somebody doesn't drop to you at 26, you probably look maybe at round 3. But I do want somebody early because I think that I get a little bit nervous about this Torrance thing going on at right guard and if he'll be around or not.
Well, I think there's a discussion to be had on Basantis because, Owen, you said that's your offensive lineman one, right?
Yeah, him and Vega are tied for that, and I give him the slight edges because I think he can start a little bit earlier and have a higher floor for his game as opposed to where Vega, I think, has a higher ceiling, which I think was our conclusion we came to even when we did watch the both of them, with Vega being a bit more raw but more high upside type of player, where I think Basantis is what he is, and which is a high level player immediately, but not someone that you're going to come in and expect to get a lot of growth out of, especially from, in comparison to a player like Vega. I'm curious, Jerry, because I know when we covered him, I didn't get the vibe that you were. I'm particularly lower on this guy, especially where people are talking about, but I felt like you were a little bit lower on him too. But with Pregnon for a first round pick at 26, were you there with him at all?
No, I'm not either. I'm not with Pregnon until maybe 3 or 4. I wasn't super impressed with him. I thought that he still had quite a bit of body development that he could get done. Basantis, I really like Basantis. I do. I'm with you, Owen. I think he's a badass, to be honest with you. I just get a little bit nervous about some of his deficiencies, and does that take him out of that 26 spot? We heard our general manager today at the combine say that we're not worrying about needs. We're picking good football players, right? Who's there? Who can help this team? We're not going to reach. We're going to take the guys, which leads me to believe he's going to draft the board, right? So I don't know. We'll see how this goes. I mean, 6'5", it's weird for a guy that's 6'5" to maybe be short-armed, but they claim that he is. I mean, on a lot of the write-ups, and we'll find out this week once the combine's over. But yeah,
Jerry, were any numbers floating around for his length or no?
I have not heard any numbers. I just seen some. I've seen some write-ups and basically, you look at some of the stuff and you can kind of tell with guys that are short-armed, they get panicky because they can't get their hands out far enough to get some distance. So you'll get some lunging and stuff out of guys. And he is a bit lungy and things like that, which cause him to have some issues with some spin moves and some counter setups and things. But, yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting with his wingspan and when that all comes out. And really you combat that with quicker hands is what you do. You go independent hands and you combat it with quicker hands. It's just like I think Will Campbell at New England's going to end up being fine. He's a rookie playing against pros. Mm-hmm. That's what happens to rookies playing against pros. So – we'll see how it goes.
So there was another offensive lineman you mentioned, Jerry. It was Cage Casey. So Randall, how high do you have Cage Casey graded?
I have him in the I have him in the second round. I didn't know whether or not he was pushing inside, but I have him in the second round. I think he's got really good play strength and pretty good hands that he can work. Take some good angles and things along those lines. I haven't done my full report on Cage Casey, but I figured he would try outside and then move inside, but I didn't know he was a definite moving inside at guard.
Well, that's kind of the rumor is he's going to move inside, and the same thing. It has to do with some length issues like Basanti.
Gotcha. Yeah.
It's the same type of thing. You know, you're looking at a guy that just like Alec Anderson. I mean, he played right tackle at UCLA.
Right.
Now he's a left guard. So usually if tackles are auto kick-ins, it usually has to do with some length issues.
Right.
Or they're just huge and can't move as well as they need to in the league.
And Owen, were you round 2, round 3, or day 3 on Cage Casey?
I have Cage Casey round 3. He's right around the same area as Pregnon for me, where I think they're both players that have some question marks to answer still about where they're going to be playing and how consistent they're going to be early on when they come in. Casey, it's going to be that transition from tackle to guard and that step up in competition where you saw him play well against some high-level competition, but it wasn't as consistent as when he was playing against other teams, and you want to see how he operates when he's in more of that constricted space. Whereas with the same thing with Pregnon, it's like, okay, I think I can see what Jerry is talking about, a bit more of a transformation that needs to happen there. So those guys are both in the round 3 category for me.
Okay.
There's a couple guys that are intriguing to me, and one of them I wanted you guys' assessment. And Owen, we looked at him, and I can't remember where you had him. One was Trey Zune from Texas A&M, and then the other is Brian Parker from Duke. They got Zune and Parker both rated as centers, and I know Parker was right from jump was talked about kicking in. Zune's played everything. He's played tackle, guard, and center. They've got him listed as a center. I thought maybe as a transitional piece with the Bills, especially if they didn't re-sign Alec Anderson, but they ended up doing it, he'd be a guy that could be a center guard, swingman, back up inside for the Bills. Kind of your assessment on both those guys.
Yeah, I think for me, Brian Parker is a round 2 grade for me. I'm pretty high on him. I know that was a conversation in the Draft Professor group chat over on Twitter like a week or so ago, where we were discussing kind of some guys were higher, some guys were lower. I like him. I think his athleticism is going to translate a lot better when he kicks inside, and he showed the intelligence and a lot of the technique that's going to happen, or it's going to.
Don't say he's intelligent just because he went to Duke. That doesn't mean anything. You didn't say intelligence about anybody until the guy from Duke. It's like, oh, he's smart. But
well, I'll come back around and compliment an Oklahoma player later. And it'll be all right.
I'm just kidding. I'm not an Oklahoma fan. I'm not an Oklahoma fan. But you know what? You better start studying that defense in Oklahoma because there are some comparisons between what Venables does in his defensive front and what Leonard does.
Yep.
I love you some Grayson Holden.
That's why I picked up a lie.
But yeah,
boom.
Robert Spears Jennings is like a round 5 or round 7 sleeper. I would love that at safety. But
yeah, Parker I'm high on. I do think he could be a guy that can come in and compete for a center job right away. Zune was someone, like you said, played all over. I found his favorite tape for me was when he was at center against Missouri. That was my favorite game of his. So okay. I've been projecting inside of center since I first watched him. Just from that alone, I thought he struggled a bit on tackle. Thought he was going to have to kick inside regardless. And the fact that he did go and then play at center and showed he had experience there, I do think that helped him out a lot for me. So he's like a round 4, round 5 type guy for me at center, where I think that if you got him both from versatility wise, but also just some upside, some untapped potential there, I do think that'll be someone who I'm interested in seeing where he lands or where he ends up testing out and measuring out, because he could be a guy that goes up some boards because of that.
Yeah, kind of like the Alec Anderson replacement. If we put Alec Anderson at left guard, you have your ultra versatile guy now sitting in the back depth area.
Right. But I don't know. I think they got other plans there because that's not – now, granted, if they can get a starter for that money, that'd be great, but that's not necessarily starter money.
What was the David Edwards contract that he was just recently playing on when he was a starter for them? It was like 2 years. Was it 8 per or was it 8 total?
2 years, 6, 3 and 3.
So it's similar to that in the contract that like very similar to what Anderson.
I remember, yeah, and he came in and was the very similar, was the utility guy first, and then they gave him 2 years, $6. So yeah, I mean that was 2 years ago though, you know. So
yeah,
I think if they can get him to start, they'd be happy. But I just have a feeling that they're looking at some other things. I mean, the biggest deal is going to be Van Pran Granger. Yeah. Really, in a perfect world to me, and I said this a while. I've said this recently. I said this week. In the perfect world to me, you figure out a way to get McGovern back, and then you take your second or third round pick and you draft a left guard, and then you start him. And if he doesn't pan out, then you got Alec Anderson to come back and bail you out until the rookie gets up to speed. But I don't like what's happening. If we lose Edwards and McGovern, which we probably will, and then you don't know what's going to happen to Torrance. You could lose your three starters in 2 years. And what is your backup depth, really? What do you have behind them to come in and play? And I just think that's the one position where it's really, really hard to just go out and pull a bunch of free agents and throw them in and say, hey, here we go. I mean, one's fine, maybe two, but I really think you got to develop your own at that spot. I think that's why you're looking at college football being so tragic and as far as offensive line play, because they're all transferring.
Yeah, if you're going to throw money at a position, like especially at center, you're going to be going to free agency like, okay, we're willing to spend to replace this position. I think there's not a lot, unless you're paying like really bottom tier kind of money for like a guy to compete with the Cedric Van Pran Granger. You're going to spend any kind of significant money at that position. You might as well just bring your own guy back because he has experience playing with that in that system already with your quarterback.
100%.
That's exactly what I'm saying, because it's like, but the problem is for the Bills, this is the worst year for McGovern to be a free agent, because it's also the same year that Tyler Lindenbaum is a free agent. And Lindenbaum is going to get the moon, which probably 20 plus million. And you've got the Chargers, their center retires. You know, you need one in Detroit. I mean, there's probably 4 to 5 other teams that need centers. And now all of a sudden McGovern becomes the next guy. So, you know, we'll see how it goes. I mean, I'm hoping that hopefully Josh puts the guilt trip on him and makes him come back, but you know, we'll see. We'll see.
They need his pizza.
I have some questions about some other offensive linemen that people are grading day 1, day 2. So, Randall, where do you have Keelan Rutledge of Georgia Tech, Connor Lew of Auburn, Jennings Dunker of Iowa, and Matt Golden of Michigan State?
All right, definitely did not remember any of that. By Keelan Rutledge. I'll start with Keelan Rutledge. I got an early day 3 on him as a guard. I'm a fan of Rutledge. 2 years of solid offensive line play, over 3,000 snaps. I like him as like a kind of a pro guard going into the pro. Just technically sound, really good in the zone blocking. He's proactive with his linemen with good footwork. So I got him on an early day 3. And then give me another guy.
Connor Lew.
I'm a fan of Connor Lew. I know that he got he tore his ACL mid-October. So I'm curious what his time frame is in his ACL recovery. But man, he moves really well in the center position. Very high IQ, very communicative. Engages immediately, athletic, good in the run game, really good anchor, good flexibility. I'm a big fan of Connor Lew. I think he could be a steal if he falls because of his ACL, and it could be something where you kind of work out SVPG, and if he doesn't work out, Connor Lew is ready to roll halfway through the season.
And then the other 2 players were Jennings Dunker and Matt Golden.
Jennings Dunker is a late day 2 for me. Obviously pushing inside. I don't think he can play right tackle based on his 45-degree set is super short and clunky going back there, but he's just a mauler on the offensive line. I think Buffalo's offensive line would do well in there because he wants to bully in the run game, and that's perfect for James Cook on inside and outside runs. So Jennings Dunker is a late day 2 for me, but I think he would be a decent fit for Buffalo.
Okay, and then the last one was Matt Golden of Michigan State.
I have not done analysis on him yet, so I will work on him. Yeah.
So, and Jerry, have you had a chance to see Matt Golden yet?
Nope.
Okay. So, Owen, you want to give everybody the Matt Golden sales pitch?
Yeah, Matt Goldman was somebody that I get brought up to me right after we got done doing our reviews, Jerry. So it was someone I watched immediately after we got done with ours. And he's just a guy at Michigan State, kind of the only real player there that was able to carry his weight this past season. Not going to blow you away with athleticism. I do think he has requisite amounts where he's going to be able to play, especially when he's flowing the second level. I do think that it showed up a bit there. Beyond where else he was going when it came to getting the space and attacking and cutting off angles. But he is a guy that is going to be able to throw his weight around, and he's going to push. He's going to be able to get pushed on one-on-one as well as being able to double up and bury guys in the second level. I'll say it here, Jerry. He's not a Duke player. He's an intelligent player. He's the one who was out there clearly, visibly setting protections and helping with his other offensive linemen getting right where they need to be. And like I said, just a kind of powerful guy, can reset and anchor, really strong when it comes to technique. I think he's not getting talked about enough. I think maybe some people are scared off a bit by him not being one of those like elite athletic centers where we have a class of Connor Lews and Parker Brailsfords who can really move. I do think, though, he covers for it enough, and he'll be someone that's like strong, steady presence in the middle. So I have him with a day 2 grade for me. And all those guys you mentioned are kind of like in that same bucket around that like day 2 grade for me.
So everybody that I talked to that has watched Gulbin, right, is day 2. The issue is not everybody's watched him, right? So like, as I'm doing different mock draft podcasts, there are plenty of people that are taking Gulbin day 2, but not everybody has watched him. So, and then I think the other selling point with Gulbin is that he has started games at all 3 interior offensive line spots for Michigan State, right, Owen?
Correct, yeah.
Yep. So we're not just getting a center. We would be getting an interior offensive lineman with significant experience at center. Kind of thing. Jerry, is there any other day 2 offensive lineman that you want to bring into the discussion?
Not really. I think there's a lot of guys that are pretty similar. There's some interesting prospects at tackle. I know that a guy that at center that's getting a lot of run that I think is probably a day 3 guy is Pat Guggen that played at Indiana. I know there's a lot of people that are in love with him. I think they love the story, but I think he's probably a day 3 dude. Day 2 guys, not really. I mean, nobody that I did think it was interesting that Drew Shelton from Penn State has fallen a little bit. Has fallen quite a bit as far as his ranking goes. But no, I mean, not really. I mean, the one guy that I'm really interested in because we kind of watched him, and I think there's a lot of the draft guys, and I know Owen and I did. I think we had kind of mixed reviews on him. Was Blake Miller from Clemson, and all of a sudden he's become this hot commodity where people got him going in the first round, and I'm going, where did this come from, right? But he seems to lately be the hot guy, and I mean, I've seen Max Benacore that's been there, and also Monroe Freeling, who I actually like. I think for a really really tall guy,
me too.
For a tall guy, I think he really bends well and moves well.
Mm-hmm.
I think he has a chance to put on some weight. I mean, I think he has a chance to be a really good player. But in that same, so it didn't shock me about Freeling, but it was weird on the Blake Miller thing. I'm like, I don't know where this came from. And I don't know, maybe you got an idea where it came from, guys.
I mean, there's been a rotation of like these kind of guys, these high upside athletic dudes that have been kind of floating into these first round mocks where it was Ainacor. Now it's Blake Miller. There have been a lot of guys that have kind of flown in and kind of rotated in as that like 3rd or 4th tackle that they're trying to find a spot for in that back of the first, because there are teams that do have some need. So like even prior to that, like before the season, it was Proctor, it was World, then it became Ainacor. Now it's Miller. I'm not sure if any of those guys are going to go in the first. I think of those names I listed to you, my favorite is like World, but like even then, no one's really talking about him. And those guys, especially like you were talking about, we weren't the highest on him, and I still haven't moved off. I have him as like an early day 3 grade for Miller, just because, like the comment said, he's a good athlete. I just felt like there was a lot still missing with his tape that maybe you're going to overlook it because he can move, and I'm sure the combine is going to make some of these guys some money because of that. But for me, I didn't really see a lot with him to justify him going like as early as the 20s in some of these mock drafts.
Right.
I think every year at this time, tackles move up because even Armand Mendy last year.
Supply and demand. Everybody needs it. I've heard Monroe Freeling's going to get in the top 12 eventually because the difference between left tackles and right tackles, how there are more right tackles than left tackles, and the desperation of supply and demand for left tackle, that Monroe Freeling's going to go top 12.
Oh, and I did a little experiment yesterday where I said, how high can Monroe Freeling go? And I was posting mocks with him going to the Giants at 5.
Cleveland
the
at
Browns
6.
At 6.
Yep.
The Rams did not like it when I put him to the Rams at 13, let me tell you. But like it's kind of like an experiment because everybody seems to be projecting him to go to the Lions right now. I think that's everybody's favorite pick is Monroe Freeling to the Lions in round 1. But I was just curious kind of how high he was going to go. But if we're talking about Buffalo specifically, Jerry, do you think Buffalo would go tackle early or do you think it would be interior?
I think it's interior, and I think you're going to see them look at interior probably rounds 3, 4, somewhere in there. That's what I think they're going to do. I think that it depends. Like I said, I think it all sets up according to what happens with the free agent market.
Yep.
Who can they bring in? Who can they not bring in? Now, I will say this, and it's not an original thought from me. It's something that Joe Marino talks about, but he said that our new offensive line coach, I can never remember his name, who comes from Pittsburgh, he's had a lot of success over the last few years of getting rookies to start and play very well. So for us to be worried about say they decide that we should bring in a high drafted rookie to start, he's had success doing that. So I don't think that's a stress. I'm fine. I'm really fine with, I think, Van Pran-Granger starting at center. There was just some things in the game that he played that maybe bothered me a little bit. And some of that was, he had some inefficiencies with hand placement because he is very short-limbed. I mean, he's probably 1 percentile as far as arm length goes. So, those NFL guys are so good with their hands. He kind of was getting controlled a little bit early, but that's also technique work and rust from not playing that much. You can overcome that, especially at center. I want to see a good preseason out of him. I want to see him develop. I think he's got a chance. I really liked his second level movement when he played, but he's got to earn it. And then who's the option if he doesn't pan out? Because I don't believe it's Alec Anderson. He is a guard. Mm-hmm. I don't think his mentality and the way he is, I don't need my center going, balls to the wall looking for fights every 5 seconds. He needs to be calm. And that's where I worry about with him. I mean, he can go play left guard and do that all game long. I'm fine with that. But
Bean talked about that today.
Yeah. What's that?
Okay. Bean talked about Alec Anderson and how he talks too much.
Yeah. So it's just like you've got to have a calmness there because you got to get in and out of the huddle and go. Right. And I can't worry about you getting penalties downfield because you're trying to start stuff. So what's that second option at center then, for Van Pran-Granger? So we'll see,
That definitely sounds like draft. Definitely.
Okay, so I guess one other player. Oh, and we talked about Josh Thompson as a day 2 player over the summer, but I haven't heard too many people talking about Josh Thompson since we've done the scouting reports on him. And that is the interior offensive lineman from LSU who transferred from Northwestern the year before. Where did your grade on Thompson end up?
So he's the lowest round 3 grade I have of any of the tier offensive linemen. So I think if you told me people had him like earlier day 3, I'd be fine with that. Or even like in that, like safely in day 3, but still in like the rounds 4/5, I can still get there with that. He's a guy that another higher floor player. I didn't really see a ton of like ceiling wise, but coming from Northwestern and then transferring to LSU, the uptick in competition didn't really bother him as much as some other guys would. And I do think that he's a player that I still think has good technique overall, but has lower ceiling when it comes to athleticism and just overall power in his profile. So that way he isn't in like one of these dominant players that you're going to draft and expect him to get to like a Pro Bowl level. But I think he could be a guy that ends up being like potentially a guy that can win a starting job and come in and compete for that. So I do think that's a potential. He has experience playing tackle, so I do think that could help him a little bit when it comes to like some versatility. but I don't think that's his pathway in the future. I do think he's strictly a guard. So he's a guy that like I would like if you specifically went into the draft needing to add depth at guard. But to be honest with you, I think the depth on this team for the Bills specifically is more at the depth players in guard between Alec Anderson, Tylan Grable. You can also continue to add that, but I think you do have the depth players for that position specifically slot in a little bit cleaner than maybe your depth options at center, like you were talking about. So if a guy isn't able to flex inside, which I don't think he could, to play the pivot at center, I do think he could be a guy that if you're specifically looking for a guard, you can go for. But other than that, I'm not so sure. I'd prefer like a Trey Zoom for him just because of that experience at center.
Randall, was it you or Newt that had the love affair with Caleb Tiernan?
Newt.
Okay. All right.
I sidestepped that landmine.
I thought it was Newt too, but I thought it might have been you. I mean, I could see Tiernan being a guy to bump inside, honestly.
Jerry, what round would you take Tiernan in?
I mean, you got a guy that could potentially be a starting tackle at some point when you need one, but in the meantime, get him experience and protection and play him inside. I mean, I'd pick him in the third round. I mean, I think he's a guy that's going to eventually be a good lineman in the league. He could be above average at some point. Right now, he's, obviously has some things to work on, but I think when I watched him on film, I thought he was an easy slide inside. At 6'7", 325, you got to remember it's kind of like a David Edwards. I mean, they were very similar as far as body build goes. So yeah, I mean, I think that would be something that would be an easy move. And then you have that guy that maybe eventually, if you need him to go outside, because there's a lot of people talking about Grable going to guard, and Grable could play guard, but if you bring Grable to guard, then your swing tackle is starting at guard, and if you do have a problem at tackle, and Grable's still that guy, then you're affecting two positions as opposed to one, and that's not desirable. So, we'll have to see how it plays out.
You don't have any upside when it comes to Lunt as maybe potentially taking over the swing tackle spot?
Lunt's not. I don't see that happening. I don't see that happening. I think Lunt has shorter arms than Van Granger does.
Randall, do you want to weigh in on Josh Thompson? Like, have you watched him? And
no, I haven't done Josh Thompson either. But I do like the idea of Tiernan potentially being able to move inside and then going outside. When I was watching him as well, I was seeing where else he could go for other than left tackle. And inside did come to mind with his lower body strength and anchor, I think would work well while he operates there and moves over. Because, as we have Deion Dawkins discussions in 2 years, that's an interesting thing that could happen and move Tiernan out.
Okay. Well,
I have one more player that I haven't really heard much about.
Oh yeah, okay, go ahead.
That one more player that I haven't heard much about, but was like a super high name coming into the year and even throughout the season. Like, what is the temperature? And I guess Jim, this is more of a question for you, but like for around the draft environment on Jake Slaughter at this point.
Good call, Owen.
Good call. I'm gonna say there's Green Bay fans that don't want him to fall past Green Bay in round 2.
Okay.
So
because he was the first round.
He wouldn't fall past Green Bay round 3. So Green Bay is in desperate need of a center. So they're one of the teams that's in need of a center that we were talking about earlier in the show. So Newt definitely likes seeing centers mocked to Green Bay in rounds 2 or 3. Right. And whether that's Slaughter or insert, I don't know if Newt has watched Matt Golban yet as to which one he would like better. But Slaughter's definitely getting day 2 attention when we do mock drafts.
I like Slaughter a lot. I like his length. I like his height. He's kind of a high leverage player. It'd be interesting. I thought if Cromer was still coaching, I could see Cromer pulling him in as one of those high leverage players that he likes. By the way, to go back to Chase Lunt, in his NFL draft profile, his arm length was 32 5/8. That puts him in the below worst percentile of arm length for tackles.
Oh yeah.
So
he's right there.
So the list I have, worst is 33 inches, and he's below that.
Isn't SVPG like 30, low 31?
Oh, SVP. He's the same.
Or like sub 31. Which one? I can't remember what he was.
He was 31, I believe. But it also goes to show you that's kind of how Cromer wasn't. Cromer was different. I mean, it wasn't so much arm length as can you play in what they call hinge? Can you play in high hinge, like this body position where it's a high leverage position, and you can. He was always talking about can you sit on your hips, right? And so yeah. Anyway, 31.4 is the worst for centers, and I think that's where he is. Is it the worst as well?
Yeah, 31 3/8.
Okay, well, do we want to do some mock drafts, and we're going to bias the early selections to edge and interior offensive line, and then start talking about like round 3 wide receivers, just to kind of change the podcast up and some of the mocks up that we do.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yep. So we're going to bring up the Draft Professor simulator. We're going to turn on this thing called Fanatic Mode. So if you haven't used the simulator before, Fanatic Mode is a way to do consecutive mock drafts where the simulator won't let you pick the same player twice. So we're going to stick with 4 rounds. Buffalo Bills. Okay, so we're going to be talking about 32 players for the Buffalo Bills. We are going to focus on offensive linemen and edges that we like in those draft positions before wide receivers, just so that we can focus on talking about new players and making sure we're giving the offensive line the attention that it needs.
So we can't talk about Concepcion and Hurst anymore?
Not right now.
Okay.
Not right now. So this is the anti-German White podcast. So
there's Monroe Freeling at Detroit. Great call, Jim.
So Vega went to the Ravens.
Yeah.
And Pregnon is here. Now, what's interesting is that there's some Ravens people that are saying Pregnon is a better scheme fit than Vega. So there are some Ravens people that have come on this channel and told me they prefer Pregnon there.
I don't like any of those four for first round.
Okay.
What's your guys' knock on Pregnon? I have Pregnon as a mid to early second. I believe you guys have him past that, right?
Yeah, I have a third on him.
He plays out of control. He's kind of
he does play out of control.
He kind of plays out of control. He's all over the place. He's kind of thin-bodied. I think he's got to develop some size and strength. I think he gets by with athleticism, but he's just kind of like a blind dog in a meat house, man. He's just kind of all over the place.
Yeah.
So Bisontis
I get
here at 26, and Jerry, Owen, you guys are comfortable with Bisontis round 1. Randall, you comfortable with Bisontis round 1?
For the guys.
It would have to. So if we're looking for interior offensive line and edge, if we wanted to go one of those at one or two, it would have to outweigh what else is there at edge. But I mean, I'm fine with my grade. I'm fine with it. It'd be more so what's the best player compared to where else we have edge players in comparison to this.
And I'm trying to take the comparison out of it for the purposes of the exercise.
Well, then yes, I'd be comfortable with him there at 26.
I need to see the edges that are available.
Okay, we're going to have plenty of time to talk about edges. That's the beauty of Fanatic Mode, because we're going to be doing multiple of these. So R. Mason Thomas is here, and I think R. Mason I don't know about Parker's or Zion Young's scheme fit.
I think both R. Mason Thomas and TJ Parker fit the scheme, especially because what Bean came out with today is how excited he was about Leonard's ability for 5-man front and the versatility in the 3-4, which means I think he's going to use everything. So scheme fit, especially when talking about BPA, I do think that's true on defensive players, but I do think R. Mason Thomas and TJ Parker can work in a 5-man front system.
I agree.
Yeah. I think TJ Parker is easily the highest graded of all the guys we talked about at this point. And if we were looking to do interior offensive line, because the Fanatic Mode would make it so that way, at minimum, TJ Parker isn't there the next time we come around to this pick. If TJ Parker wasn't there right now, it'd be between Thomas and Bisontis for me. And I think I have Bisontis graded higher than Thomas specifically. So that would be then who my BPA would be at that point.
I think Parker is the pick here.
Yeah. I have it R. Mason, TJ Bisontis. But I get why people like TJ Parker. I think our Mason Thomas brings a little bit more explosiveness to the line, which I am in favor of for Buffalo.
I personally like our Mason Thomas better, but to not be biased towards Oklahoma players, I could go with TJ Parker.
Don't let Owen win, Jerry.
No, all the Washington guys are going to Miami this year. They're all going to get drafted by the Dolphins.
Don't wish that on me.
Yeah, wish it on some unlucky kids.
When I look up write-ups for our Mason Thomas, and the first thing I see is twitched up rush linebacker, I'm all for it.
Same, man. Same.
Okay, so if TJ Parker's round 1 and we want to focus on the linemen, Cage Casey's here. Now, is Cage Casey round 2 or round 3?
Yeah. Oh, he's like round 3.
I would say round 3, but I would have Golban round 2.
Okay, so you have Matt Golban round 2, Owen?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think this would be a great spot for him to land, especially with the fact that he played both guard spots and center. You grab Golban, regardless of what you've done in free agency, whether you focus on center or you focus on guard, you're now coming around and covering either of those spots right then and there.
Okay. So TJ Parker, Matt Golban, and then this puts us in this now, let's say a different world because we haven't addressed wide receiver. So like I said, Jeremy White is going to absolutely hate this podcast. But if the wide receivers here right now, anybody jump off to you as a round 3 wide receiver?
I was going to make the joke about Deion Burks for Jerry there, but not really.
I have Skylar Bell in the 3rd, but I don't think he's a great Buffalo fit.
And why is that, Randall?
He's going to be in the slot, and I feel like he can run. He's going to be 100% in the slot, and I feel like he can run into Shakir. I do believe that we should entertain the idea of Shakir becoming more like his 22 to 2023 self. That kind of be like a little bit like Skylar Bell.
Yeah, I think if you're going to add another slot player, it would have to be that kind of power slot type where they already have Shakir as a traditional slot, and they already like in the system they like power slots a lot more anyway. And Keon's already kind of penciled in with the faintest like artist pencil markings that you can barely see on the paper for that power slot role right now. But I do think that like if they're going to add anybody that's going to be slot specific, it'll be a bigger bodied guy that can operate in that kind of space.
What do we got for offensive linemen?
So we took Matt Golban in round 2.
Oh, we already did. This is round 3? Okay.
Yes, this is round 3. No, that's all right. That's all right. Sometimes I make picks without telling everybody that I clicked the mouse. That's
okay.
I wouldn't be opposed to Darrell Jackson Jr. here.
I was going to say the same thing. What's your concern about Darrell Jackson Jr. being a little bit built like Deion Walker and some of his deficiencies being semi-similar to Deion Walker?
I think he utilizes his hands a lot better than Deion did when he was at Kentucky. Like as a true, he played true nose for Florida State, whereas Deion was more on the outside.
Right.
And I do think it showed up with while his pass rush did not match what he did a season ago, which was really impressive. I do think that Darrell Jackson Jr. is still upgraded in terms of hand usage, core strength against
in that nose tackle spot.
I agree. I'm nose tackle.
I think he's like right around the 50th player for me for Darrell Jackson Jr. So I'm a big fan of him, and I do think he's a Bills fit.
Wow. Okay, so Randall, you got to get with Jack Brentnall. You two are like the highest two on Darrell Jackson Jr.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure post combine, he's going to go up as well because measurables. He's going to test really well.
Well, Jerry, you mentioned linebacker. Weren't you the one that was very much opposed to that idea with the guys they have on the roster currently?
I wasn't opposed. I wasn't opposed at all. I'm just saying I think what we have on the roster will be fine, but I don't think that you're necessarily going to keep Shaq Thompson because I think he wants more money now. I don't, there's linebackers that, we're still going to need to bring some people in.
Yeah. Do you think that the investment so in the 3rd round, an investment for a linebacker there would need to be a player that impacts the defense, especially earlier on, to be worth it? Do you think that you're projecting this guy to come in and be playing over playing next to Bernard, playing over Bernard? Where does Dorian Williams fit with that, in your opinion?
I think Dorian's going to kill this system. I think what we're looking at is this: if we're going to pick this thing like Bean said that he was going to pick today, we're looking at value in players, not necessarily filling specific needs, right? So, I mean, it depends on how you look at it. I'm not sold on Bernard. Now, granted, maybe Bernard shows back up and becomes that linebacker from a few years ago where he's making tons of splash plays behind the line of scrimmage. If he can get back to that form, then that's good for us. But I still think they need to add a linebacker. I don't know if Shaq Thompson stays because I think he's let it be known that he wants to get paid.
Agreed, and I think teams with more cap space will pay him a little bit more than us.
Right.
I do believe in Terrell Bernard, and I know that this is kind of annoying to say, but contractually he kind of does have to work with how we paid him and what he needs to be.
Yeah.
So, I'm really banking on the injury. And you could tell on tape that the injury was the injury, and he lost a step. And being an undersized linebacker, losing that step, it's what he had. So I am banking on him getting that step back and being a good will.
And really, even so, I mean, right now, if you look at the deal, he's ranked 14th as far as his pay scale. I mean, he's making about almost $5.5 million. I mean, it's not like it's good money, but it's not like it's ridiculous money.
Yeah, I mean, I'll never to step away from an opportunity to draft Red Murdoch in the third round because I absolutely adore him, especially for this scheme. When you're looking for a guy that's like 6'2" to 6'3", hovering around the 230 to 240 range, and can punch linemen in the mouth coming downhill, I think that's what you're getting with Red. He's in your backyard, great character. I think he's a guy that you draft him and he can be a plug and play Mike for you. In this system, and then you have them battle out for who's going to place in the other spots, and then you can move Dorian around more of as like a chess piece linebacker type, as opposed to hoping and praying he can be another player that can step in at Mike and be that downhill player for you.
I'm with you on Red Murdoch.
Okay, we'll do Red Murdoch in round 3. So this is T.J. Parker, Matt Goldman, Red Murdoch. We've hit the trenches. We've hit linebacker.
I feel like I'm more comfortable with the wide receivers. I'm sure that'll be available here
4,
with the value.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Because the same guys are here.
Right. Bryce Lance is somebody I'd be interested in.
Deion Burks. Deion Burks is probably going to blow up the combine.
But
2 different
it's like 3 cone and
I picked him to lead all players in the vert. That was my bet last week, was that he would be a player that, because he shows height difference to jump for skill, he has that. I'm not opposed to Dejon Stribling here. I'm a big fan of him.
I am.
Okay.
Yeah, I've got a 6th round on him.
Really?
Oh, okay. You were opposed. It took me a minute. I thought you were excited about that. Owen, sell everybody on Stribling because I know we loved him over the summer.
Yeah, well, so I loved him over the summer, and I finally got to watching him as an update for Ole Miss for this upcoming podcast we're going to be doing in a few weeks, covering the wide receivers on Wednesdays. And he's another player that I felt like he could have taken a bigger step and maybe continued to transcend. I do have him a bit lower than I did coming into the year, but he's a guy that showed some explosivity, especially with the ball in his hands, getting up the field. He's a bigger body, is going to block his ass off where you run those routes where he's going to try to clear out the top, has some speed, and can make some good, difficult catches. Now, I don't think he's going to be your traditional X. I think he's going to be more of that Z type receiver. But if you're looking to add a player that can make some impact and fill that Tyrell Shavers role we started getting towards the end of this past season, or just offer some pop to the offense, especially over the middle or with when getting them some targets in that intermediate on crossers and things like that, he's going to be a player that can weaponize that a lot more than maybe some other players that you're currently looking at. And it won't be someone you're pegging specifically to be a slot only type player.
And
he's inside. I mean, wait, do you think that Stribling would be inside and outside or just outside?
I think he'd just be outside.
Yeah, that's there. My concern with him is he would be basically fighting through with Keon because they're similar body types. I think they're pretty similar when it comes down to it, and they have similar deficiencies. And I think Stribling got a lot of praise for the end of the year because he had a good end of the year, but his release package at the line of scrimmage is okay. His long speed is okay. His stem work is okay. So we're kind of really putting him and Keon in a bunch, being like, you both have to learn these things to be efficient in the NFL. And I'm not sure how much physicality is going to transfer over. So I wouldn't take Stribling in the 4th personally. I'd wait longer.
So where are we on, for example, Malik Benson? I know Jerry's big on receiver that it can attack all 3 levels of the field. Is that Malik Benson, Deion Burks, or Chris Hilton?
Hilton's a difficult one because he didn't get a ton of volume. Now, the LSU offense was disastrous this whole season. Right. He's another guy that I like just because he did like your typical wide receiver 3, wide receiver 4 stuff of run the for level of game routes, block his ass off, has speed that teams have to respect, but never got a ton of volume throughout his entire time at college. I felt like if he did get some more volume, he may be able to be a bit better. But for me, like he's the guy that is a lot of unproven. He does the minute, smaller detail, is going to play teams for you. If you're worried about having a depth receiver that doesn't play teams, with Shavers being out right now, he's the guy that can step in and do that. But I don't know if that's something I'd value in the 4th, right, or at least right away for this. For
my
this
understanding is Hilton's going to run in the 4.2s.
Oh yeah, he's going to be fast. He's going to be real fast.
I don't think he's over 6'1". Going to let a 4.2 guy fall to round 5.
Sure,
probably not.
I think the measurables in that, this being over 6 foot and running in a 4.2s is going to get him drafted higher. I don't think a lot of what you saw on film or statistically production wise is going to warrant that though. So I'm a big Chris Hilton fan. I don't know if I'm going to, for my one receiver I'm investing in this mock draft, he's the guy I'm going for.
Yeah, it's really at this point, I would like to hope that we got somebody in free agency along the lines like Romeo Doubs, or we made a trade or things along those lines. And then obviously with Owen getting talk about Hilton, I guess I'll run through Benson. He's 6'1", 195. They'll probably run a 4.35 at his speed. He would be our punt returner. So we would have our punt returner and now our kick returner, which would be good for special teams. And then he reminds me of a day 3 Jameson Williams. He's got all 3 levels of speed and short, intermediate. He's got good inside routes, has a good post, has good go. He burns people when it comes down to it. He separates right after the catch. So he's my guy. I've been on him for a while, but I think he's going to move up in the combine.
Okay. Why don't we do Malik Benson, finish this mock, and we'll start a new one.
Sounds good.
So fanatic mode means that the mocks are linked. So what we're going to see when it comes into the next round 1 is TJ Parker, who we selected last time, has been sniped from us this time. So if we have the choice between Bisontis and these edges, who would we pick between Bisontis and the edges?
Let me see the interior offensive lineman and the tackles. I want to see the tackles too.
Want to see the tackles too? Mm-hmm. So tackles, Proctor, Lomu are both there.
Let's maybe take an. I was going to say let's take an edge again and then see if we can ride, and maybe Tiernan's available in the 2nd round, and take him as the guard. I don't know. What do you think, Owen?
I mean, I would even just I'm higher. I guess I'm higher on Tiernan than you guys are. Maybe not as high as Nuke was, but even if your plan is to draft Tiernan and then have him be a guard immediately, and then eventually maybe down the road he's your replacement for Dawkins when he starts to age out. That's if you told me that was the plan, I'd be comfortable with him at 26. But I'm also comfortable with some of these other players. They're all like him. Cassius Howell, I have higher than R. Mason Thomas right now, just from that same kind of explosive pass rush, win on the outside type of edge rusher. Like those guys I have graded in like this 2nd round bucket. So those guys, like if you told me either of those, I'd be okay with it at 26, just because there's not that many 1st round grades I do have.
I think Cassius Howell's is my opinion is of this 1st round pick, you got to take edge. You got to take edge that gets after it. And I think I like Hal probably rated higher than R. Mason.
Are you guys concerned? You're not concerned at all about his profile and his sub 31 arms with his size going in the first round?
Where is that documented sub 31 arms?
Yeah, it's going to be the like historical outlier short arms, Jerry. Like 1 percentile, I believe.
Well, then he fits right in with the rest of the Bills players that are in the league.
That's all we would keep saying that.
He's probably a lot. And I'll be honest with you, I'll be honest with you, our Mason Thomas is not long either.
Yeah.
I mean, he's not.
That's kind of the
either.
player they're looking for here, though, right? Where they're looking for a guy to win as like an off-ball, not valuing the run defense that much, looking for more of the speed, pass rush, get after it, have a deeper bag of pass rush moves.
You got to get out of the Sean McDermott mindset of compression, rush, set the edge. Yep. Compression, rush, set the edge. This is get your ass upfield and go make a play.
But I think our Mason Thomas carries a little bit more weight on him, which helps in his explosion than the strength, opposed to Cassius Howell. And I
mean, Howell might weigh in around like the high 230s. Like he's going to be more of a linebacker type build, whereas Thomas
Mason's
like around 250.
250.
Yeah, he's at 250. The thing about Thomas that I really like, and it's just me as a player, if you watch his film, he is relentless. Like he makes tackles downfield. Like he plays his ass off.
He does.
And I mean, that type of competition, the way he competes, man.
I love the way he grew from 2024 to 2025 too. He was not technical in 2024. He was more explosion and athlete. 2025, he started coming with plans and technique.
No, he gets the strip sack and scores a touchdown with a torn quad. He's just a dog, man.
Yeah, I mean, if it was either of these edges, I'd be fine with either of these guys. If you told me these two were on the board and one of them was drafted to the Bills, I'd be happy regardless of which one it was.
Okay, we'll go R. Mason Thomas. And you would take both of them over Basantis?
Yes.
Probably.
Okay, we'll do R. Mason Thomas in this one.
Now we're going to look at tackles when we get to the next pick.
Yep.
He's going to go to pick right before us. I can see it.
So in round, and just for everybody to see, so in round 2, Matt Gulbin was taken by the simulator, 8 picks before Buffalo's on the clock.
All right,
I didn't see Tiernan go.
Boom.
There it is.
Pick it.
Tiernan. I really like that idea.
I love that idea.
Yeah.
And you see, we're forcing ourselves into mocks because we're not even looking at wide receivers. So it gives us a chance to talk about players we don't normally talk about.
That's a phenomenal plan. If you can get him in the second and have him as your penciled in like go-to player at guard with the upside of eventually being tackled, I absolutely love that idea.
Okay.
It's a lot nicer. It's a lot nicer to get experience protected inside before putting you out on an island, you know?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So this is where this could get difficult because Red Murdoch was sniped before the 3rd round pick. So what do we like in round 3? I mean, there's definitely some good safeties here.
Oh, and where do you have Max Llewellyn? Do you have early day 3?
Llewellyn? Let me just double check. I have him. Where the hell is he? I have him with around 3 grade still.
You have around 3 grade?
You want to talk about like Gumby on the edge with the speed and this elite like spin move. Like he's a crazy outside pass rusher. The run defense just never came to be at all ever. But he's if you're looking for a guy 6'4", 6'5", 250 to 260, but moves like Cassius Howell, that's what he is.
He's got like 6 pass rush moves in his bag, which is crazy. And I avidly watched 2024 and 2025 because I was like, there's no way that he does not repeat. Like you can crack the code of Max Llewellyn. He changes it up every single time.
Yeah. I think if that was the case where we went with an interior offensive line in round 1 or a wide receiver, that would be the player I'd probably peg for us to go for in round 3. If that was what we waited for edge was at round 3 would be Llewellyn.
So after R. Mason Thomas and Caleb Tiernan in rounds 1 and 2, is this Darrell Jackson versus the safeties, or is there any other player position? Like, should we be looking at a corner?
No.
I'm not.
I mean,
excited
unless
about any of those
we're
players.
entertaining the nickel idea with Brandon Beane talking about Taron Johnson and
Oh,
being a
God.
discussion about Taron Johnson playing
Oh,
safety.
dude,
And I don't think
oh.
Taron Johnson should play safety at all. I'm just saying that was a clue into the fact that Taron Johnson will not be starting nickel.
If ideas I've heard recently, that's like the worst.
Oh,
That's
my
like
God.
a 9 million from the list of ideas.
I cannot agree. I cannot agree with you more.
I know what we'll
Trust me.
do. We'll take the guy that's so beat up he can't play the position, and we'll move him to the more physical spot.
Right.
Give me a break.
Jim, for me, I think it is Daryl Jackson Jr. versus the safeties, and specifically for me, it's either Genesis Smith or Husky for the safeties. With me leaning more for Genesis Smith, but I really do like Daryl Jackson Jr. as a projected nose tackle type player, especially because like maybe you'll make an investment, maybe if you can land like a Crisis Tonga in free agency or something like that. I do think Daryl Jackson Jr. has more upside than anybody you're going to land in free agency and nose tackle though, with the pass rush that he showed in years previous.
You
So,
got.
I was gonna say,
What do you?
that's
Why don't
pretty
you
much
like?
what I was gonna say.
What don't you like about Wheatley? He's rated pretty high.
He is similar to Smith in that he has the height, weight, speed. He's just a lot more raw when it comes to understanding his assignments. And whereas Smith, I do think also struggles with like tackling specifically. I think he's still generally a good fundamental run defender when it comes to angles and taking the correct way. You just need to coach him a bit when it comes to tackle technique. Whereas Wheatley, there's a lot more, I think, out of controlness to his game for me.
I would take Wheatley. I think I'm a little higher than Owen on Wheatley. I do like it. I think he's I think he's sideline to sideline motor where he is kind of running like crazy, but I think he's got some good instincts and he's got really good footwork. And I think he handles in the box as really ball hawk mentality as a free safety. So I think he can do a lot. But I am much more in the boat of getting that free safety in Like if those three safeties, I would take in order. It would be Smith, Husky, Wheatley. But I'm high in all three of them. But for Buffalo fits, I'd go Smith, Husky, Wheatley.
And you guys are okay with a free safety in round 3 with a 20% missed tackle rate in Genesis Smith?
I'm not.
I like him, but I can understand why people would be out on that.
You'd have to teach him how to tackle for sure.
Why I don't.
He's got the best range in the class.
I don't have time to teach an NFL player how to tackle. Tackle or don't tackle. That's why I look. I mean, if you don't tackle by now. I mean, are you going to tackle?
I think for overall graded wise, compared to everything, I think I have Daryl Jackson Jr. the highest of the group. So I would just go with him and then see what of the safeties are still left moving on later.
Or Bud Clark. I don't know where Bud Clark's going.
I mean,
Bud
we're already
Clark is going just a little bit before Buffalo's pick. So on this simulator, he's going in round 3.
I mean, we already know that Jim's going to take Robert Spears Jennings later. So I mean, why do we want to switch for him now?
Okay, so we'll make this the final pick because I know that, like with Fanatic Mode, it's kind of a commitment, and we're probably not going to be here for another hour. So, what would we do after R. Mason Thomas, Caleb Tiernan, Daryl Jackson Jr. in round 4?
I went back. I still have to update and do a full watch through for the updated film when it comes to wide receivers. But like Chris Hilton doesn't. I'm not opposed to the idea. I'm just saying.
I'm not opposed to it either.
Especially for a guy, if you're looking like you just want speed and a guy that is got some size and some speed to attack down the field, but does the smaller stuff too, like that's not a bad player to go with.
Especially the 4th round.
Well, yeah, especially with what's currently on the board.
Right.
And that was kind of the point I was making with Hilton is that we saw that trend last year, right? So think of between when Buffalo drafted Landon Jackson in round 3, we traded up for Walker at the top of round 4. By the time we were on the clock in round 5, every fast wide receiver was off the board. Most of them were already off the board before we picked Walker.
Right.
Right. So the NFL is basically telling us that if you're running that 4.3 or the sub 4.3 40, you're not going to get to the end of round 4.
I just can't wait for, if that's the pick, the fan reaction to a guy that had season stats of 2 catches for 81 yards, 7 catches for 109 yards, 13 catches for 225 yards, 9 catches for 243 yards, and 10 catches for 122 yards. That's where I'm kind of like, all right, let's even he's 6 foot and runs 4.2, but like, can we pump the brakes a bit on the Hilton hype train?
Yeah.
Right. And you were giving his season stats, Owen. Those were not game stats. Those were season stats.
Right.
That was in all 5 years of his career at LSU.
Yep. So why don't we pause here for podcaster identification? Jerry, do you want to let everybody know about all the different podcasts and content that you make?
All right, let's do this. Okay, so you can find me on Overreaction Buffalo Sports Network. You're on Wednesday nights on 7 Days of Sunday with Zig Fracassi. Also do various other shows to fill in. And then, of course, during the season, we have a post-game show on Sundays or whenever the Bills play. Then on the Locked On Network, I do Bill Squad with Joe Marino and Jeremy White. We do that on Mondays and Thursdays in the offseason. And just recently have added another Locked On show where I'm doing some afternoon stuff. Joe Marino now has 2 episodes of Locked On Bills a day, not just one. The afternoon episode's a little bit shorter. It's about a 15 to 20 minute pop, and I'm doing most of those with him as well. So I'll be on that afternoon Locked On show with Joe also. So that's and then you can also find me here randomly on the Draft Professors with all these awesome dudes like Randall and Owen. And I am looking forward to April, dude. I think that's going to be a blast, those couple 3 days. I've never done it, but I've already trying to figure out where I'm going to put my snacks and my drinks. And because, it's going to be the long haul, yeah. I'm sure.
Yeah. Owen.
Yeah, so you can find me on Twitter and on YouTube at Weekly Huddle, where I talk draft prospect stuff, Buffalo Bills, football in general, as well as some other random takes. We didn't mention it here, guys, but I've been playing Freebird for about 3 days straight at this point. So I'm a big hockey guy too. So that's always something I have takes on over there. So
2 for 2.
You can find me there. Give me follows. I also get a bit hot taking on the Twitter's timeline. So I'm excited to see other people's opinions of that and get some more replies to that stuff. I know I made some Jacksonville Jaguars fans pretty pissed off on Twitter the last few weeks.
That's okay.
About their loss?
Yeah.
About Brian Thomas Jr.
Yeah, no, I was just kidding. I know you were still like trolling Jaguars fans for playing.
I was, yes.
Randall, go ahead.
Yeah, at Randall Slavery, you can find me on Twitter. I try and respond to everybody. I do a Buffalo Bills show with Do Champions at 8 Eastern, 7 Central on Mondays. Draft Professor on Tuesdays with these guys. And then Wednesday, I am on Team NBS NFL Draft Central with Bill Carroll and Greg Rector. We are doing interior offensive line and defensive tackles tomorrow. We have a BYU linebacker that we are interviewing tomorrow if you want to check that out as well. And that's it.
Cool. So first I want to mention, like, Jerry being able to host Epic Mock on your Overreaction podcast is going to be awesome. So Epic Mock is a 32 podcaster mock draft over 3 days. So for day 1 and day 2, it'll be on Jerry's for the Buffalo Bills aspect of the draft. It's going to be on Jerry's Overreaction show. And then on Saturday, it'll be on Randall's Do Champions show. So we have Draft Professor has filled, I believe when I counted, it was 24 of the 32 podcaster spots are full. And I've filled the hard ones, right? I got the Rams filled. I got Seahawks filled. I got the Cardinals filled.
Oh, wow.
Finding draft people. None of those people know those teams, though. They just said, my podcast will do it. I said, okay, you got the Seahawks, you got the
Rams. Now, Jim, are you going to be like the grand marshal of ceremonies at a central location, and me, Randall, and Owen will be on the Overreaction deal?
You got it. So the ask is everybody's going to tag their podcasts the same. So we put Epic Mock 26 like in the title. Yep. So if you want to select a player and somebody takes them, you are strongly encouraged to go to their podcast feed and tell them. So now we're going to have all the drafters showing up in the chat of the other drafters' podcasts. it will be a lot of fun. So I've done this for 7 years. Last year, I ran it for draft professors for the first time, but it went really well. Even though I disagreed with a couple of the Bills' picks, it went really well.
This will be awesome.
It was Owen's fault. He picked that Owen.
But
whoa.
Hey, and I'm just letting you two know. I'm just letting Randall, you and Owen know that I will chirp, but you guys are the experts when it comes to this. I'll play nice in the sandbox, so to speak.
Well, it's a war room. There's no reason to be nice. Like
I'm just gonna try and top your snacks, Jerry. I'm gonna have like just a charcuterie board right next to me.
Well, I'm trying to. My buddy owns. I don't say he owns. He works for a restaurant supply company, and I'm trying to get one of them hot dog rollers.
Hell
I think I can put it right over here, and just have hot dog roller going at the same time. I mean, there's nothing.
I can't imagine seeing a hot dog roller at the corner of the screen.
Nothing says
just 9 for 9 for 9, 9 beers, 9 dogs, 9 innings sort of situation.
Just a hot dog roller, you know. Yep, exactly.
I love that. I love it.
Oh, that's a great idea, Owen. A slurping machine.
There you go.
7-Eleven. I was looking to get one of those for my kids for Christmas.
Yeah,
I would die for that. That would be awesome.
See if 7-Eleven will give you a little space for the podcast.
But yeah, so anyways, we're doing Epic Mock, and if you want to participate, it isn't too late, but it's almost too late. You need to get in touch with me soon, right? So get the podcast going, and to everybody at the Draft Professor, right? So it's a group of about 80 people that podcast on the draft. I can't do this without all of you, right? So so I'm here and I'm pushing buttons and pulling strings and stuff, but there we go. You see, and Lilia is ready to step in and help. See, Lily is a team player, so
exactly. So who's Newt drafting for?
Newt doesn't. Newt's sitting this one out. He said it's 3 days is too much of a commitment. He would be for the Packers. So, but
I got 2 days in me. I don't know about 3.
I'm sure he'll chirp in ever so often.
Yeah. Good. So he'll show up, and it's a lot of fun, and we could probably sit here and talk about Epic Mock for a really long time. But for Randall, Owen, Jerry Ostrowski, myself, for Bills Mafia everywhere, thank you for watching. Go Bills, and we will see you on a podcast again tomorrow.